All right, good afternoon. It's Thursday, August 10th, 3 p.m. This is the Wisconsin Rapids Human Resource Committee. We're meeting in the McMillan Memorial Library. Item number 1, we'll call the meeting to order at 3 o'clock. Item number 2, from July 18, Common Council referral, discuss and consider for approval creation of an administrative lieutenant position in the WRPD. Chief, you want to go again?
Sure. I mean, what new do you need, I guess? I will tell you that even if this position is approved and filled, we're not going to be able to promote anyone to lieutenant for another year. So as far as costs associated with it, they're going to be, minimal if any. We're trying to hire 4 officers. So, I mean, if you take the fact that we're down that many officers, plus the fact that we're not going to be able to promote anyone, I want to fill the position, don't get me wrong. But we're not going to be able to promote anyone else to lieutenant because we don't have anybody that's, 1, interested, or 2, qualified to test for lieutenant yet. So, it won't be till July, August, probably August next year, before we can even promote anyone else to lieutenant. So, I mean, other than that, I mean, you've got all of my arguments for this position. It's a crucial position. Should have never been eliminated to begin with. We have a lot of things that this position should be doing that have been scattered throughout the police department, and those individuals that are doing these tasks are being restricted from doing the tasks that they should be doing while they're having to do, purchasing vehicles and equipment and uniforms and dealing with the range and, and not having one person doing all of those things. It's hard for me as a head of the department to keep track of those things, those costs involved. And because you'll have each crew lieutenant is purchasing uniforms and equipment for the officers on those crews, and there's no one person that's looking at all of these requests and all of these purchases and going, hey, we bought a lot of this year. Maybe we need to look at why we're buying a lot of that particular item this year, and maybe find an alternative, some sort of cost savings, things like that. In addition to that, this position will be in charge of the code enforcement position as well as the civilian staff. Grants, we can have one person researching and writing and requesting grants for the police department for various things, whether it's personnel or equipment or whatever for the department. So I don't know, do you have any questions? I mean, what else?
I don't. Patrick?
So you said they're going to be writing grants. Is that, so you say this will pay for itself, this position, through the grant writing process?
Yeah, so it could potentially pay for itself through the grant writing process. I, myself, was in this position at my previous agency, and while I was in this position at my previous agency, I got literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of grants for the police department. So I mean, it's not unheard of, or it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Now, obviously, the grants have to be available; they have to be applicable. The individual needs to be trained. I mean, there's training out there that I can send the person to specifically for police finding and acquiring and writing police law enforcement related grants. And I mean, they're out there. It's abundant. Federal grants, state grants, things like that. You just got to know where to find them, and you got to know how to write for them to get approved for those grants. So having experience in this particular realm, in that particular position, I was doing grant stuff pretty much constantly. I mean, we did the COPS grant. One year we ended up, full disclosure, we ended up turning down the money once we were approved for the grant, because it was during COVID. But I was approved to hire 3 new officers with the COPS grant, and it came to around $400,000, the total amount of the grant over a 3-year period. Again, we ended up turning it down because the city manager wasn't comfortable with making a hire and not knowing where we were going to be cost-wise, revenue-wise for the city during the COVID process. It was really early on in 2020. But that's just one example of a possibility for that individual to be requiring grants and things like that. So.
And on your hierarchy sheet that you have, this would add a position for replacing the deputy chief and the chief when those positions become available, is that?
Yes, so that's really across the board for the lieutenants. That's what we want the lieutenants to be, and then this position would be a temporary position, like a 1, 2, 3-year position, depending on what we decide. I think a 3-year rotation would be an adequate amount of time for someone to get in there. They learn a lot about budgeting, they learn a lot about, the grant writing, they learn a lot about the administration of the police department, where the patrol side doesn't. They don't get a lot of opportunity to do that, to delve into the, the fine, parts of running a police department, budgeting, the purchasing, managing the budget and your purchases and the numbers, and then consulting the chief on, on the next year's budget, because, hey, we didn't spend all of this budget this year, but we went over on this budget this year, and just examples of things that, if we've got another eye, another person that is dealing with those types of items, can help us save money in the long run. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, we're adding a body, but I think ultimately, this position is probably one of the most important positions on the police department, hands down. And, I'd be willing to, if I'm able to get this approved, I'd be willing to take a lieutenant off of a crew and leave a sergeant in charge of that crew until we can promote a lieutenant to fill that position. Because it's that important of a position for this police department. Now, I would do that on a day shift crew so that we had lieutenants and above, except for Saturday and Sunday, always available, personally available to that sergeant or while they're running the shift. But it's that important of a position for me to fill and to get and to fill as soon as possible.
Anything else? Mayor? Dean?
Has any, at this point, so since other officers are handling those duties previously and taken away from what they're supposed to be doing,
Yes, sir.
has overtime resulted because they didn't, see what I mean? Have we incurred extra cost by those officers?
So the potential extra costs involved in those things are when it comes down to keeping track of what we're spending. And maybe not so much in additional costs or cost savings, but in the potential to actually increase revenue coming in with the grants and things like that, to provide for things that we're normally paying out of our normal budget. For instance, this is just a small example, but I got an email, I don't know, a month or so ago regarding a safety grant that would cover bulletproof vests or other safety equipment. I gave it to my deputy chief. He applied for it, submitted all the information. We got $4,000 to pay to pay for, bulletproof vests and things like that. So that's $4,000 less that we have to spend on bulletproof vests. And just one example, and it's just one thing that came in just in an email. Now, if I got an individual that is researching grants and going out and actively applying for these types of things, I mean, the potential is pretty good to offset a lot of the costs that we are incurring through our regular budget process or through the regular line items of the budget.
So is grant writing gonna be obviously, they're not gonna be pre-qualified in grant writing, so we'll be training them in grant writing then?
Yeah, I will help with that, I've done it myself, but there is training out there for law enforcement agencies specifically for finding and writing and acquiring law enforcement related grants. And the reason why that is because there's a lot of money out there for agencies if you know how to find it and you know how to write the grants to get it.
So you're gonna get a grant to pay for the training, grant writing. You understand?
That'd be nice,
I just,
but
you
yeah.
know. So this is something that would be on the job training, so through,
Yes.
sort of.
Yeah,
that
it would
training.
be on the, but plus I could send the individual, and we're actually looking for, that training when it's available, we would send this individual to that training.
Okay.
I found this on the web.
I worked there when we had this position, and I know that person was very busy in this position. As for what it is now and what they can do, I've been long out of that game, but I guess I'm gonna support the chief on this, knowing that he's not gonna frivolously ask for a position. And I believe that his passion in this position and, he directly knows the value of the position, and that's why I strongly support it.
Ryan? Anything else? Well, then I'll make a motion to approve the creation of an administrative lieutenant position in the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Chief. Item number 3, consider a revision to the overtime and on-call policy to provide that paid holidays shall be considered as hours worked. Paul or Brian or whoever?
Yeah, I'll take it.
So attached, you have the employee handbook policy for the overtime and on-call pay. You'll see in there, currently, pretty much all paid time off that happens during the week, does not be considered towards hours worked. And so what happens is during pretty much just the winter months, when we get a snow event on a Friday night and we have to come in and plow on Saturday, the work group is working at straight time on Saturday until they get to their 8-hour day, or could be additional hours that they had off. And at that point is when they start to work at time and a half. So I guess I'm requesting that the holidays be considered into the hours worked, just because, it's a benefit that the city has, that the employee does not have to work on the holiday, nor am I condoning that they have to work on the holiday by any means. But all the other paid time off circumstances are their choosing, and just requesting, because we do have times, this does not occur every single year. Obviously, it could occur every single year. We're not looking for it to snow by any means. It's just, I can say probably in the last 5 years that it's happened twice. And there's grumbling, oh, I gotta work at straight time. There's people that don't answer their phone because they're not gonna come in on straight time for a Saturday. And it can get to be difficult to put together a whole crew out of, it's virtually half the crew coming in, is what we're needed to do to plow the snow, so.
Can I ask?
Sure.
Do you have an approximate cost of what a snow or weather event would
Yeah, so
potentially cost?
typically, a traditional snow event takes us, we have 13 guys that come in. It takes about 12 hours to plow snow, to get the event completely done. You know, if they come in and they work 8 hours of straight time and then 4 hours at time and a half, versus the 12 hours at straight time, it would be about $1,400 an event would be the additional cost.
That's for all 13.
That's for all
Assuming
13. Yep.
Total cost would be.
Total cost per event. Like I say, in the wintertime, obviously, you could have the issue during, deer season, Christmas, and New Year's would be the 3 times of the year that could possibly happen.
Questions?
This would only be on Saturday, correct? Because on
Correct, yeah.
Sunday, they're already paid double time.
Sunday's automatic double time, yes.
My feelings on this, I think that it's fine the way it is personally. I think that we have I understand that you might have problems, and I think we could make another policy that if you are called on your day off, like have a list of people that are on call, and if they don't answer their phone or don't show up, they get written up. I think it's a good paying job, and I don't see why somebody wouldn't show up just because they're not getting paid. I mean, get people that wanna work.
I don't think it's an issue of wanting to work or not wanting to work. I just think it's some incentive. You know, the winters can get pretty long,
I
and,
can, yeah.
and it's just some incentive to make sure that you got enough people to come in and do what you gotta do. I'm in favor of this, I'll tell you that right now, so. Mayor?
Have we had incidences where we haven't been able to get people in? And then does that change how you have to plow, or do you plow less, or do you?
So we haven't ever had an issue of not being able to get 13 people in to plow snow. Now, the situation will arise where you maybe have somebody in a piece of equipment that doesn't necessarily belong in there because they haven't had the training yet. You know, and so, but no, we have not had an issue of not getting everybody in or not getting enough people in. You know, but again, you have, like I say, you're putting people in there that maybe shouldn't be in there yet, driving a $250,000 piece of equipment that can do a fair amount of damage, you know, and so, like I said, the amount of time that it happens is minute, you know, and it's more of a, can't think of the word, I'm sorry, morale type thing than a necessity, you know. We are actually, to your point, Alderman Delaney, we are looking at developing a policy that, you know, because these guys are not paid on call, you know, and we are looking at giving them like 4 times throughout the year, that if they were called and they didn't come into work, that it would be like 4 strikes type thing, to be some sort of, not necessarily discipline, but we manage a overtime list. And so right now, we call people in, except for these positions, we call people in based off of their amount of overtime that they have throughout the year. And if they don't answer their phone 4 times, then they go to being automatically the last person called, so their opportunity for overtime is lessened. You know, so.
You still track the hours and do, lowest on overtime to highest, start that, so, and if they don't answer the phone, does it count as time worked?
If it's refused within their classification, it's time over.
Okay.
I agree with the policy in the sense that, like you said, with the situation on these holidays that create the situation. I also agree that, you know, if it's self-induced, if I call in sick or I take some other time off, then that's kind of on me. And but to Patrick's point of view, and I've told both these guys before, is that, you know, I think when you bid these jobs, you're assuming that the job you're bidding might have call-in responsibilities. if you don't wanna get called in, don't bid a job that you're gonna get called in on. But I think when you're bidding these jobs, that's your responsibility to answer the call, because that's the nature of the job you're choosing to do. But at the same side, on this situation where it's not the employee's choice, then I can understand that. You know, that Saturday may come, and I can speak from experience. When I used to get called into things, I'd be like, what am I doing today? I don't feel like coming in, you know, because I might have something else. But especially if it was for straight time, you know, when you're coming in for time and a half, it's like, all right, maybe it's worth a little bit, but do I want to give up my family time on a Saturday to make my regular pay? Maybe not, you know. So in this case, it's not self-induced, so then I support it for that reason. But otherwise, no, I wouldn't. But it's twofold. I think there's a double issue here, is because there are instances where, you know, there are events where people are struggling to get them to come in, and I think in the nature of the job requires that if you want to take that job, it's kind of on you to expect to come in. But these are different situations.
So, I guess I would ask the question, if it costs you $1,300 extra, if you can't get these positions filled by people that are supposed to be in these positions, what's it gonna cost you? I mean, you have an hourly, what it costs to plow snow per hour? Because you're gonna add some time, these guys don't know the equipment, they don't know the routes. You're adding cost to this, just because you don't have experience doing it.
Well, I mean,
Or has experience.
realistically, I mean, some of it is a guesstimate, you know, but I would say that the loader with an operator in there is $175 an hour. So, sorry, I'm trying to find my calculator.
Just for clarity purposes, can you explain where that 175 comes from? That's not obviously the hourly rate to the employee.
No, the hourly rate to the employee, I believe, is $28.02 an hour or whatever, plus the ILC is 70% of that,
So is ILC.
overhead,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So the equipment, the material, yeah, you're not at Public Works today.
$75 an hour, I might go back for an hour.
But that's your equipment and your gas.
So the cost of the city for the employee is $47.88 an hour. So, you know, like I say, a $250,000 machine, plus fuel, plus another $40,000 or $50,000 snowplow on the front, you know, you're talking about a $300,000 machine depreciated over 10 years, you know, is, like I say, sorry, I'm just rattling
No,
stuff.
you're
but-
good, you're good.
But, so yeah, if you take 1,500 and say that it takes you two additional hours for the work group, because it's not gonna just take that one person, because the normal operators will probably get done in a 2-hour time period or whatever, or the 12-hour time period, and then there's gonna be 2 or 3 additional people that go and help out, get that area done, you know, so.
Anything, Dean? No? Anything else, Patrick? All right, I'll make a motion to consider the revision on the overtime, or approve the revision on the overtime calling policy. To provide paid holidays shall be considered hours worked. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I'm not gonna vote for it. It'll go to council, and I'm sure it'll be passed, because council never says no to anything, so, I mean, really.
No, but I agree, Patrick, I think this is how we should do it going forward. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
No.
1 aye and 1 no, so it's going back tied.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 4, consider a revision to compensatory time off policy to provide that compensatory time be capped at 80 hours at any time during the year. Paul?
So again, I believe you have the comp time policy in front of you. So really the only thing that the comp time policy has is that at the end of the year, you can't carry over more than 50 hours. What I'm requesting is that we put in there, a cap of 80 hours. And so that doesn't preclude an employee from having more than 80 or getting saving more than 80 hours a year, but I just would like to put in there that they get to 80 hours, and then they have to take it down before they start to bank it again. Because what has happened in the past is, you know, some guys who are in plowing snow in the wintertime, they'll have 120 hours of comp time, plus their 3 weeks of vacation, plus the week of personal time. And then, of course, they wanna take that off throughout the summer, which they're entitled to it, but, it doesn't always work. And so, it doesn't work for us because our work group is so small. And so I would like just to, you know, cap it at that 80 hours, but still allow them to bank more than 80 hours throughout the year, but just, you know, not allow them to have 120 hours starting June 1st, and then all of a sudden they wanna take the whole month of July off and using 3 weeks of comp time, you know.
Comments, questions?
So if somebody, say somebody has vacation time, this isn't considered the exact same as vacation time, correct? Like somebody that has vacation time will be ahead of somebody that's got a week of comp time.
It depends on what, so we just base it off of the date of the request, you know, so what we do is for, our work group is somewhat split, so the people that are working down at the sign shop, there's only one person from the sign shop that's allowed at a time. The regular work group, we have that down to 4. So there's 4 people out of a work group of like 20-some that are allowed to be off at a time. So if there's 4 people that came in, 2 of them have it requested as comp time and it's already been approved, and then there's 2 people that asked for a vacation, and then all of a sudden John comes in and asks for a vacation and there's 4 people off, he wouldn't bump those people that have comp time. They've already been approved. So it's just, once it gets full, it's full, you know.
But, so do you still schedule you schedule your vacation at the beginning of the year?
Correct.
And if you've got your 4 off and somebody comes in and asks for comp time, it's gonna be denied?
Denied, correct, yeah. So it would be considered the same as any other paid time off, comp time would be.
So you're saying it is equal to vacation?
Yeah, I guess I am,
Okay.
yes.
But your vacation, you can schedule at the beginning of the year. If you want July off for time in July, which is probably still a pretty popular time, you can get that in the books.
January 1st.
Yeah, maybe explain, and then,
Yeah, how do you do your vacation?
Yeah, so what we do is the last week of December, our administrative assistant, or not last week, I'm sorry, December, the first week of December, our administrative assistant, we hand out a card that has what their vacation balance is as of that date, and then what they're going to get at the first of the year. And then, the first Monday of the new year, the employees are required to, turn in any of their vacation requests for the year. What we do is we put them in order based off of the date of hire. And then we go through and do everyone's first request, you know, everyone's second request, everyone's third request, and whatever. Then, obviously, there are some people that don't maybe necessarily have vacation plans at the first of the year. Then they are required to ask, I believe it's 24 hours in advance of their vacation day that they're requesting, or week. You know, and then it's based off of what the calendar looks like. If it's not full, then it's approved. If it's, and I guess it could even be denied, even if there was a week like last week where we chip sealed and we needed everybody available. Because, you know, again, we're trying to keep our construction crew going, and we need everybody on deck. So just because there's not 4 people off, you know, it's the supervisor's prerogative whether or not they approve it or disapprove it based off of the workload. Not that that's ever happened, you know, but.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'm not real up to speed on this. I know that some places what they do is they, with their vacation pay, they can elect not to take their vacation every year, and then it builds up, like
Yeah.
some people, they get
You can
like.
only carry over 2 years, or 2 weeks.
2 weeks here, 80 hours,
Okay.
correct. But that's separate from the comp time. So, sorry, may I? So currently you can carry over, like Paul alluded to, 80 hours of vacation time. Plus, if you're in the street department, you could also carry over 50 hours of comp time. So you could take 80 plus, you could carry over 130 hours of paid time split between comp and vacation. So we have many different buckets at the city. You have vacation, personal, floating holidays, sick, and in some instances compensatory time. So 5 to 6 different buckets of paid time to the employee groups versus a PTO, which is just one lump sum of paid time.
Plus then, so he just confused the heck out of all of us. So, but plus also, once you carry over 50 hours of comp time through the first of the year, obviously the winter months are when we're plowing snow on, after hours, Saturday and Sunday. So an employee may end up with 70 hours of overtime in January, February, March. So he has 70 hours of overtime that he chooses to comp instead of taking pay on. So he takes that 70 hours, adds it to the 50, so he ends up with 120 hours of comp time, plus his, maybe he has 2 weeks of vacation that he got at the first of the year, and then he carried over 2 weeks of vacation, so he could have 7 weeks of vacation to burn up in that calendar year. And so what I'm requesting is that I'm still okay with them, getting the 120 hours of comp time throughout the calendar year, but instead of allowing him to have 120 hours, June 1st, I would like for him to only have a 80-hour cap, so that, maybe he carries over 50, he earns 30 hours in January, but then he takes 3 weeks off in the winter months to go ice fishing or something like that. So he's using 24 hours of comp time, so now he's down to 56. Then he can build it back up to 80 again, and just constantly go back and forth, versus building everything up and then taking the whole month of July off.
There's also a benefit to comp time is that there's no cost, so they're not replacing the employees, so financial costs, you're saving money in your budget on salaries because they're taking it as time off versus the pay. Now, the problem comes in is if you have to replace that body, but they allow only a certain number off, and so that body isn't being replaced, so there's not an actual dollar cost for that position, or for that position being off.
Right.
And so you're saving that money on the budget time. So there's benefit to comp time in that sense.
Do most people use it as time off?
As kids say, the PD has the exact same thing.
Well, but it's probably gonna depend upon the age of your work group, because, if you're maxed out on vacation, the chances are probably better that you're not gonna take that. And it's still 6 weeks, right? I mean, that's a lot of time off. But if you're just getting hired and starting with a week, I guess it's probably, everybody's different. Dean, anything? Nothing? Chief, you wanna chime in on this? All right. Any other questions, Kathy?
No, I think I understand it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, well, I'll second that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Where's the ice cream now?
Yeah.
It's in his truck.
We ate the stuff he brought. He was on time. He was early.
He brought celery.
No, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. Item number 5, adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned at 3:35. Thank you.